No, but we have though. Wonga reminded us we have this nebulous bet right now sitting there. It included the Liverpool-Everton match, which was postponed last week, and we have 5 right so far. If the Reds beat the Toffees whenever that's played, we win like $150 or something.
And we just jinxed it. Thanks, Sharms.
Yes, I know.
And we're recording, by the way, Sharms.
Is that how that goes, or does it get taken off and then the odds change and you can catch out with the 4? Like, does it honestly just postpone that game? I don't know.
Well, you know what? It says here we won on FAT. Oh, we won that bet.
Yeah,
so
I think
voided.
it cancels the game.
Yeah,
it voids the game. Exactly. Your odds change.
Yeah, they changed, but they're still pretty good. We won $138.
Woo!
So, yeah, okay. Well, that's good.
Thank you, Asa.
Yeah.
You were waiting for that game?
My balance was we were, yeah. This generic, yet to be named mentioned betting site we're using for this. Insert name here. Yeah, thanks. All right. I feel good. Hey, we're going to have some fun today, Wonga.
All right, see you guys. Have a good one.
Actually, it's my money, so fuck you all. Hey, Asa, how was your weekend? How was your Friday? When the news
Friday was absolutely nuts.
Just so you know, Asa, we're recording, and welcome to Footy Prime, everybody.
Hey.
We are organically starting the show off. So, yeah, the Whitecaps are being sold. Did you hear?
Yeah, I heard, just like everyone else, on Friday morning here, I guess the afternoon for you guys. The phone was going crazy, and I was definitely surprised by the news. And then once I took a step back, understood the business side of it, and definitely see how it makes sense for the owners to put the team up for sale at this time, especially if you believe that there were the rumors that it was being shopped around at other stages, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So yeah, it makes sense, especially with kind of the trajectory of the team, where they're at right now, as stable as they've ever been, as good as they've ever been on paper anyway. Some recent success, attendance was really good. So if they were looking to sell, now's probably a good time. And then with the World Cup just around the corner as well, that could be enticing for potential buyers. But then you get to the potential buyers, and that's a whole other can of worms. That's where all the question and attention is going right now. It's interesting because I've seen so much talk on Twitter, obviously, and one of the things I find interesting is sort of the people calling out the be careful what you wish for bunch, because it is one of these things there. And for every team in every market, they would call on ownership, spend more, or need new ownership. And here we are, the team's up for sale. And I feel like that group's gone pretty quiet, because the scary reality is that there's definite potential for this team to be relocated and moved elsewhere, depending who the buyer is. So I think that has footy fans here in Vancouver definitely scared of that possibility.
Would it be potentially the owners in place right now and Kerfoot, whatnot? Would it be something that they would want to sell to somebody who wants to keep Vancouver in Vancouver?
Good question. And they've said that through Axel Schuster, who's been the spokesperson, the sporting director, CEO for the Vancouver Whitecaps. He's spoke to media on Friday. It's been pretty open since the news has broke, and kind of relaying the middle person and kind of relay the messages from the ownership group. And they said that is a priority. So that's one of the things that they've mentioned, that finding somebody who will keep the team here, build on this legacy and what they've kind of established here after the 50-year anniversary this past season. They say it's a priority for the next owner to keep the team here. But I mean, we've been around this business, this sport, long enough to know that it's the owner's prerogative, right? Whoever the owner is.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. If this is about estate planning for these guys who have obviously spoken to their families and said, we really haven't got much interest in owning this team once you guys snuff it, the biggest check's going to win, right? It's that simple.
Yeah,
that'll be the mandate. I mean, ideally, that comes with some guarantees that the team stays in Vancouver. But as Grizzlies fans will remind you, I know that it didn't have the history of the Whitecaps, obviously, but at some point the check's gonna be pretty juicy and it's gonna be very hard to say no to.
That's just it. You know, you're exactly right. If I don't know if anyone's gone through like real estate and home sales, which is the closest I've come to kind of comparing to something like this, when you have like a 400 million valuation for a product. But yeah, it's similar in the home sales. It's like, yeah, I love your letter and your story and everything, but yeah, the money speaks loudest. But yeah, I mean, that's where things do get interesting, because who has the money, especially locally, like, and is interested in purchasing this club. That's going to be really interesting to see. Who comes forward. I know we gave him a lot of love the last time I was on, my colleague Squire Barnes, but he spoke to the Aquilinis and kind of broke the news that they weren't interested or aren't interested, and said that flat out. So, you know, you start to look around as far as who are the interested owners. And I keep coming back to this current ownership group. Like, they're the ones who are invested in the Lower Mainland and sport and soccer in particular. So, you know, these are the ones that if anyone were to care about keeping the club here, it's the current ownership group. I'm curious to see, who the next owners would be and how much they'd have invested in the Lower Mainland.
So
is there
Asa,
a reason why now? Why now, Asa?
Kind of the reasons I think I was talking about. Yeah, I mean, Sharms, the reason that they gave was what Sharms was talking about, estate planning. But I look more towards just where the club is right now. And if they were kind of shopping or looking previously, you had a pandemic that just kind of muddied the waters with no one selling anything at that stage, right? And then you kind of come out of that, you have tenants being pretty stable and growing, and kind of the arrows pointing up over the last 2 years, the team in a pretty good place. If you were thinking about it for a while, this is probably the time. So when it comes to timing, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And a World Cup coming here as well. I think that that could be enticing for the next buyer. Oh, and then the other thing I was thinking about as well is the that price tag, that expansion fee price tag that San Diego reportedly paid at $500 million. I have to feel that kind of helps boost the numbers of the valuation here as well. So I think those are some of the things that just help the current value of the club.
I was going to say, Asa, what are the different, I mean, I read the narrative, estate planning.
Yeah.
What other narratives are there out there other than, hey, this is something it's now 10 times and a half, so 1.5 times, and made its money in evaluation. Mm-hmm. It's okay to say, hey, we're going to cash out. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Because
what the fuck are we talking about? This was an investment in the first place.
No, you're 100% right. And I think that's the most appealing thing when it comes to business. Like, I don't know, and the next owner will open the books and see how much money is made each year. And I don't know how much that is. And I think in sports, it's really tough market right now. But the best thing about, I guess, investing in sport is that the value goes up in North America, around the world. Like, for the most part, the value goes up year over year. And that's been the biggest benefit for the current owners, is just how much that value's gone up over the last 10, 15 years. So, could have said that, but I don't know how well that would have gone over with the locals, right?
But, I mean, that's at the crux of it is, and one of the other things when Sharms mentioned the Grizzlies is, it doesn't matter if the Vancouver Whitecaps move to landlocked Kentucky, right? Like, it'll be the Kentucky Whitecaps. The flora and the fauna don't matter. What does matter is the bottom line. Now, I guess my big question is the commitment to Vancouver. Have you heard about, other than, hey, this will be on the on the small print, is it has to stay in Vancouver? We've seen things just move away.
Yeah, I haven't heard any strong commitment in that regard, outside of making it a priority in the interview process, I guess, for potential buyers. But yeah, that's something that I guess is being discussed, and obviously it's getting a lot of attention right now because it's looking more and more likely it's going to be a foreign buyer. And when you look at the things that the Whitecaps, one of the biggest things for the Whitecaps as far as revenue generating opportunities, it's the Canadian dollar right now as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that obviously is a bit of a flag and has people concerned as well about the potential about the team relocating. So yeah, just going back to Sharman's thing, like it's going to be up to the next buyer. And I don't know how much of a priority it is, although they're saying the right things, that it is a priority to keep the team here.
Yeah, but foreign groups, they want to get in because they want to get into the US market.
That's why. Yeah, you're right. So when I was saying foreign, I was like potentially like American, I guess, moving to an American market, heading south. But yeah, the one thing that kind of comes up that I find interesting is if it were a multi-club ownership group that you see throughout Europe, South America as well, or looking to get into other markets, and maybe that's a way for the club to stay, keep its brand, keep its name, keep everything, and have this be a part of this multi-club ownership group. So, and I haven't heard anything yet. I mean, it's only been just been the weekend so far about potential buyers in that regard.
Craig, you follow this stuff.
For an owner's point of view, I think when you're moving it to the States, they always have the opportunity to get stadiums built for them. Taxpayer money can be put in place for stadiums to be built. And Vancouver doesn't look as though they're politically in a position where they want to build a new stadium for Vancouver. Do you think that's a part of it as well, trying to put some pressure on the local politicians that maybe they can get a stadium built?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, because I think that's definitely something working against the Whitecaps when it looks at just what they own, just assets in general. Don't have a stadium, don't have any offices that they own or anything, like don't have any land really that they own here, which could be beneficial, I guess, to the club as far as like revenue generation as well, right? Just getting those concessions and all the rest and making the most out of the facility itself. So yeah, that doesn't exist. I think that would definitely be a huge benefit to keeping the team here. But then that gets really interesting as well. You get the next buyer in. If they plan to just kind of relocate anyway, they could just lean on that. The fact that they didn't get their stadium, didn't get the deal they wanted from BC Place and get out.
I think when that news dropped, there was a collective sense of nausea around Canadian soccer. Like, fuck, really?
Yeah.
Caps, right?
Ace,
was that the feeling out there? Was that what?
100%, 100% Wonger. Like it went there right away. Just that sinking feeling in your gut, right? That like this
Ace is like, who am I going to cover out here?
yeah.
He just play-by-play, for Christ's sake.
Right.
Asa. Think of Asa here, man.
That's right.
Jesus.
No, it's definitely tough, right? Like just the sad reality of it. But I also think that this could take a while. These processes can take a while. Obviously, finding the right person, I think, is going to be important. I think we'll also see how much the team is really worth, because something is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it, right? So these valuation numbers are great and all, but we'll see what it's actually worth.
San Diego, the expansion fee is reported $500 million, right? And Vancouver's I think that the number being put out there is it's valued at $600,000.
I saw 470, but USD, I think.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
What does this mean, Asa, for the
managerial?
managerial?
You said thousand, sorry, Sharms?
Sorry?
I saw like 420 million.
Millions.
US,
not
US.
thousands.
Million.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Did I say thousands?
I think he said 600,000 tons. I was like, what number is this?
Then we can buy.
We'll buy them.
Yeah.
Footy Prime said we will leverage all of our houses.
Yeah, we're going to buy the caps. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
But
Hey, maybe that's the power we have. We should start throwing around that number.
Fan ownership.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Let's do the same model as TSS Rovers.
That's right. We just keep saying it's valued at $78,000. We'll put our pitch together.
What does it mean though for the managerial search right now? I mean, that is not great. If you're a manager, a name manager, you need stability. Who's going to be paying your paycheck? Are we staying? That's disastrous timing.
Oh yeah, and it's such a big deal, right? Like this is a team going into Champions Cup here, and trying to get the roster right, coming off an up and down year, but has high expectations going into next season, especially at the late acquisition of Stuart Armstrong, who's starting to come on. So the team's in a good place, healthy, going into a year with decent expectations, and you don't have a manager. And Axel, when he spoke on Friday, was talking about how, the priority is finding the ownership and everything. I was like, yeah, we still need a coach here.
Why would he fire Vanny if you're announcing this a month later?
Oh, the questions, right? Like, and then the timing
right.
of the Vanny firing was really interesting as well. 2 weeks after the season, I think we talked about it last time I was on as well. And then this kind of leaves you scratching your head as well, like how much was known, how much of this potentially came into the decision. So strange because Vanny had the year left, and if this was coming, could have just rolled out. Yeah, with Vanny who knows the team, and after, Axel had even said that, he wanted someone that kind of knows what's going on here, the setup, the system, all the assistant coaches, the whole coaching staff still here getting ready for the season as well. And Vanny could have just rolled things over into the next season.
We have a live question from one of our commentators, and this is from Jimmy Brennan. I hear he's out.
Yeah, where did Jimmy go? What
digital
happened?
world somewhere. But he said, can someone ask, is it worth buying a club that doesn't have any assets? They don't own the stadium or training ground. I know we covered that. Is it important for the new group to build a stadium and facility, maybe a joint venture with CSA? And even we were talking about a CSA headquarters, and they've been talking about Toronto, and we've been told it's 99% Toronto. That I threw out a maybe two head, if it's a training ground and a stadium with perhaps a reach out into BC, which allows, all kinds of different playing options and training options.
That's interesting. I haven't thought of the CSA angle.
Thanks, little Jimmy Brennan, for sending out that question.
Jimmy. Appreciate that. Little Jimmy out there. We talked about the lack of assets and the sale of the team. I didn't really think about the CSA angle and potentially building something in that regard. And that would be beneficial for so many parties, obviously. Then you have got the girls' side here as well. The Vancouver Rise potentially use that facility also. So that's an interesting
way to correct your women's side.
You're right. Sorry, familiar with the Vancouver Girls Elite, but you're right. The Vancouver Rise women's team. You're gonna get me canceled, Wonger.
They would have noticed.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Dubs would have.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to do it. Yeah, with CSA potentially. So, but to answer the initial question, the lack of assets, I think, is definitely could be seen as a deterrent for the facility itself. But also on the sales, concession sales, and revenue generation, I think that's a big issue.
I want to find the positive in this. I just don't see it.
Anyone? Yeah.
It's surprising to me because Greg Kerfoot has been as good as anybody has been to the game of soccer in this country. The support that it goes way back to the 86ers, doesn't it? When he was invested and very much into the community of things. So it does surprise me a little bit. And his support for the women's program is second to none.
Yeah, no, you're right. But that is interesting. So still invested in the women's program, and Vancouver Rise not up for sale with this sale. So that's not affected or impacted by this, which was really interesting as well. And Kerfoot's name's been brought up a few times.
Is Kerfoot in leadership and ownership in the Rise too?
Yeah, heavily invested in the Vancouver Rise.
And maybe he's going more domestic. Maybe that's his play, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'd have to bring him on the show.
Let's do it.
Well, listen, there's got to be. I mean, maybe there is to say there's got to be. Maybe there's a billionaire Canadian or organization out there wanting this opportunity, right? I mean, it's an established sporting brand in this country. It pulls in good numbers, assuming it makes money, right? There's a lot to like, and there's a lot to keep it in Canada. But I just look at the paychecks. It's not going to be about, well, they offered us 500. These guys are offering us 600. We know where they're going with this.
Yeah, bottom line, it's going to be the loudest thing, right? Like what's being offered for this. But Forrest made a good point earlier, just about putting the pressure maybe on the government to get a stadium done. One thing that we've been looking into here is just like kind of what went wrong with the potential Port Stadium that was being pitched before joining MLS. Because to our understanding, the city government kind of stepped in and made that difficult. And I wonder, if there's an opportunity to build a stadium here, how that would go down and how willing to play governments would be to kind of get a stadium built here, because that would make a big difference in hopefully keeping the team here.
It's trying times. I mean, you look at Montreal. I mean, how committed are the Saputos? I wonder to that, given that they've now invested in European football, Bologna, right? A lot of money there.
Baloney once again. Baloney.
Sorry, Baloney.
I'm going to get you canceled too.
Well, I mean, there's a conceivable future here, right, where there's only one MLS team in Canada. MLS don't really care about it. Montreal's a tiny market. If Vancouver's on the way out, I mean, I hate to be the doomsayer here, but it's not unrealistic to consider that in the coming years, Craig, there's going to be one Canadian-based MLS team.
Yeah, I would hate to think that that's the case, but I don't think it's out of the question that it could possibly happen. Yeah, no, I thought about that one as well. Like that's kind of where mine went after. If this team does end up moving, and we're jumping ahead a little bit, obviously, but that doesn't seem that crazy that things could go that way. And then depending on the sales, the price tags, you figure that all three Canadian teams could probably see a potential exit here. Well,
TFC's bleeding money as well, right?
It's tough for the Canadian teams, right? Like, I feel awful saying this, but it's a tough game. When you just kind of step back and look at it on the ownership side of things, what you're paying and then what you're pulling in, it's a tough business for sure.
Can I lay out my crystal ball? I want to lay out my crystal ball, Sharms.
Yeah.
Asian investor who keeps because of the 6-hour flight over to Hong Kong. China needs some sport washing to join the Saudis and everybody else out there. They invest in this Whitecaps team. They do some exhibitions over in Hong Kong, and then do a couple of league games with the Sounders and the Galaxy and LAFC. So they have them. Then year 2 or 3, they do, hey, let's do half our season out here. And then slowly but surely, it is a Chinese-run club that sports washes and can actually throw money around, which allows Vancouver fans to have a team, but very little say in how it's managed.
I think the fans would accept that one. I think it's a great idea.
How is that for some?
I don't think the fans care who owns the club. They just want to see football.
I like your source.
Yeah. Dan Wong. What's Dan Wong's source? Another question, live question from little Jimmy Brennan.
Little Jimmy Brennan's really busy today.
He says, could the ownership group sell the Whitecaps for 10 times what they brought it for, and then maybe buy a CPL team for a fraction of the cost and support the domestic league. But what will that mean, little Jimmy Brennan, to Vancouver of the CPL and Pacific? 3 teams out there, little Jimmy.
Yeah.
Or do you actually move Vancouver FC to Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean that's again, we're like making these massive strides, which is exactly what we've done.
We're doing this show.
Yeah. It's just exactly what we've done. When we're talking about it, when I'm on the phone with friends or in the group chat, that's exactly where you go. What if this happens? Then this happens, and a bigger investment in CPL is definitely one that we've kind of bantered about. The franchise, the rights, the naming, sort of the history of the club is another thing. Like if they potentially move. The sad thing through all of this is, and okay, to answer little Jimmy's question, yes, like that's a possibility, right? Could happen. I don't know.
Well, little Jimmy now says moving to Kelowna, where Rob Friend is from.
This is great,
right? And you can keep the name Whitecaps; it still works.
That's right. Yeah, could potentially keep the name. I guess that's the interesting thing in the history. There's something there. There's definitely value here for if there's a buyer that wants to purchase this team and move them elsewhere, they would not see the amount of value that I guess the locals, the Canadians, see in the Vancouver Whitecaps, the brand and the history there.
We've got another one here from Little Amy.
Okay.
Little Amy Walsh, who's on the road right now between Montreal and Toronto.
That's great. First time, long time.
Yeah, exactly. She says it's a legacy sell, though. They don't want another team. Well, way to piss on our theories there, Little Amy. We know it's a legacy sell, Little Amy. If you were listening, you're not. Or maybe she is listening. Is she listening right now?
She's not in she's not in our compartment.
She's not, is she? Yeah. Yeah, I think we're hoping for the best here, but we know the writing's kind of on the wall here. Little Jimmy now says, I wasn't little when I woke up this morning with my
Great.
Yeah.
Hi, Dick. Morning, Rod.
Yeah. Anything more you want to add to this before we let you go?
Yeah, send us off with something, Asa,
positive,
so we can quote you. I don't care if it's just quotable. Hot take. What's your hot take?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was strong. This has been really helpful, guys. This has been really therapeutic because it's been a tough last few days, just kind of wondering what's going to happen with this team. They're up for sale, obviously. I think that to kind of summarize the things that we've talked about and thoughts on this in general, I think the sale's going to take a while. It generally does when you're trying to sell something this size. So the hope is the team ends up staying, put some pressure on government to kind of get a stadium built here, which I think would be great. However that comes about, and then we can have a nice, fun discusussion for years to come about the Vancouver Whitecaps and the new ownership group that's going to continue to pump money into this team and be ingrained in the fabric of the community here. Because it's
also 3-bedroom condo available for sale, cheap. Asa Raymond, just call him. His real estate agent will. Someone's coming back to Toronto.
Yeah.
So hopefully it works out. For fans,
guys, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great.
Come out this season, in big numbers and show some potential investor that you should keep the team in Vancouver. That's all you can do as a fan.
Yeah,
really.
Definitely.
Right. Fingers crossed, because this gotta be. It'll be tragic. It'd be awful to see the Caps leave Canada for sure. Asa, thanks, mate.